Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to Rav Gottlieb's articles in the back of Giving, English translation from Matan Torah. We are on the sixth essay titled Women and Children. The Rebbe Shlita begins. In his discussion of the concept of observing the Torah, quote, for its sake, Bal HaSulam quotes the following statement of Maimonides, the Rambam, from the Laws of Repentance, chapter 10, quote, the significance of being occupied with Torah in the mitzvot for its sake, the Shema, must not be revealed to women and children, for they would not be able to bear it. The statement seems to be treating women as inferior. Is that indeed the position of Judaism? There is nothing in Judaism that prevents a woman from attaining any level of serving God. Indeed, every woman is obligated, the same as every man, to work toward attaining a state of cleaving to God, tvekut. There are many spiritual levels, and all of them can be found among women. For example, there were female prophets that arrived at prophecy by way of great effort in refining their character. Our role as humans is to reach the state of cleaving to God, dveikut, as we've spoken about in the second and fourth essays in the back of this sefer. Just as He is merciful, so too we should be. Just as He is all-giving and loving, so too we must be. So to refine ourselves, to be less receiving and more altruistic, women have the same job in terms of their inner work. It's no different in regards to the goal of dveikut. That's for humanity. All of us. A woman's potential to fulfill this role is in no way inferior to the potential of a man. Then how can we understand this quote from Maimonides? More to the point, how can we interpret Bal HaSulam's use of this statement in the context of his essay, The Giving of the Torah, Matan Torah? Rebbe Baruch Shalom Ashlak has explained that the expression women and children is not used here in its plain meaning, but rather is a code name that refers to a spiritual state that may apply to any person regardless of their gender. To understand this fully, let's first consider what is meant by claiming that for its sake, the Shema must not be revealed to certain people. Rabbi Baruch Shalom points out that anyone can just open a book, including the writings of Maimonides himself, and see what is written regarding this. Isn't what is written already revealed? The answer is based on the principle of Bal HaSulam that wherever our sages said that something is prohibited, asur, the intention is that it is impossible. According to this, Maimonides' statement is understood as saying it is impossible to reveal the practice of Torah for its sake, the Shema, to certain people because they cannot bear it. It is difficult to bear the idea of serving God without any expectation or intention to get some reward. It's completely unnatural to devote one's time and energy to anything that brings no benefit to oneself. Serving God for its sake, Lishma, necessitates two extraordinary qualities: that we are able to face the truth that our desire is to receive, and that we can appreciate the goal of desiring to give. Why does Maimonides use the code name women and children to refer to people who cannot bear the idea of Torah for its sake? According to the Kabbalah, each man and woman has both the male and the female aspects of the soul. The desire to give is labeled male, zachar, in Hebrew, and the desire to receive is called female, nekeva. The association of male with giving and female with receiving derives from the biological fact that the male gives the seed which is received by the female. And there is nothing positive or negative about giving or receiving in this sense. It's true that normally in terms of art and a work, receiving is less important because we want to focus on giving. But that's because giving is the tikkun, the fixing of creation, because we're born as complete egoists. So to go against the nature is the correction for that egoism, being the attempt to be altruistic, the attempt to be giving. But in this sense, if we're speaking about biology, one is not less important or more important than the other. And to be fair, if we want to hone in on the spiritual work again, the truth is receiving is connected to the purpose of creation. It just so happens that it's receiving in order to give, as we've spoken about in Matan Torah and Haravut in different essays. The aspect of Shabbos, Oneg Shabbos, receiving the Creator's goodness in order to give a spirit of pleasantness, in order to give joy to Him. The codename woman, however, applies to anyone who is dominated by his or her receiving side. Again, this is coded language and has nothing to do with the gender itself that is male and female today. These are words that are describing certain principles and aspects that each and every person has. This applies whether that person is biologically a male or a female, continues the Rabbi Shita. This is a particular example of the manner in which the Kabbalah uses references to the material world in order to refer to aspects of the spiritual world, a manner referred to as the language of branch and root. That is the language of the Kabbalists, the language of Tanakh, the language of the words of our sages. It's all in code. It's all describing different processes of our inner work and of the systems within the innermost recesses of our consciousness, being the spiritual worlds. That's why it's so important to get a grasp on the language of branch and root. If we can do that, then so much of our learning and our involvement in Torah will open up in a deep and profound way. And we'll be able to connect the matters and stories and journeys of the Jewish people to ourselves. Understand how it relates to us right here, right now. The Baal HaSulam says in the first portion of one of his magnum opus, the Talmud Eser Sfirot, the study of the 10 Sfirot, his grand commentary on the Eitz Chaim, as written by Rabbi Chaim Vital Zatzal in the name of the Arizal. And he says there that a person can meditate on physicality in order to draw and discover the secrets of spirituality, because branch and root, everything we have in this world, all systems and ways of being are expressing processes in consciousness, in the spiritual worlds. So he says there that we can meditate on it, we can contemplate it, and discover the secrets just by that alone. Because we don't have any other reference point other than the materiality that we are ensconced in. In addition to the term woman connoting receiving, it has also been used as a metaphor for weakness. This is the source of the well-known expression of our sages, quote, his strength was weakened as a female, from Masechet Brachot 32a, based on an interpretation of a verse in Bamidbar, Numbers 14:16. Apart from such references in the Torah, the association of weakness with the female gender is apparently also due to the fact that a man's physical strength is generally greater than a woman's. That's our biology. Of course, this makes sense only from a physiological point of view. For example, a woman's psychological stamina is often greater than a man's. Nonetheless, the usual physical difference, which is more easily discernible, explains the use of the concept of woman to symbolize weakness in general. Again, a physical branch describing a spiritual principle. But the Rebbe Shlita here is clarifying that that's not always the case in our material world, but that which is most revealed to us is how we express that principle and make that comparison. But women are oftentimes, more than not, again, have more psychological stamina than men. Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag defined one whose, quote, strength is weakened as one who cannot stand before the truth that he or she is in a state of self-love and disconnected from the Creator. This refers to people, male and female, who are not yet prepared to comprehend the seriousness of the low point in which they find themselves when they want to be connected to God. And the reason they are not prepared is because they are dominated by their desire to receive pleasure and joy for their own benefit. Not easy to hear these ideas. The truth is intrinsically bitter, which will be sweet in the end, but it's hard to digest. So one whose strength is weakened is one who can't stand such truth that the Torah provides within our consciousness, being the depths of our egoism and the truth about how disconnected we really are. Meaning someone can be mistaken, for example, and live a life of seeming piety on the surface and be alacritous with their observance, with learning and praying and helping others and the like. They might even be involved in Jewish meditation and might often find themselves feeling lofty experiences of being imbued with the infinite light that's found within them right here, right now. Revelations of their soul and the Creator at their level. So a person can be mistaken and believe that that is them becoming closer. That's them strengthening their relationship. It could be, I'm not saying no, but generally due to the notion that we are pure egoists, and we slowly but surely are given that revelation and awareness by means of our inner work. So it's pretty bitter to think of oneself as being Beseder, everything's cool, I'm doing all the above, and I'm getting some lofty experiences here and there. Okay, a little bit of peaks and troughs here and there, but I'm really moving on up the ladder. But in regards to the Bala Sulam's simple definition of what it means to be close to the Creator, which is giving, the more giving we are, the more refined we are, the closer we are to His character, therefore closer to Him. So everything I just mentioned, if someone is abiding by that level of consciousness in their service and doesn't have any awareness of their ego and is just enjoying toward mitzvot and is not really honing in on the inner work and the bitterness of the self-criticism, being the left line, they're just in the right line, then it's falsehood. They're living a life of lies in regards to the truth that is their egoism and the true level that they're attempting to reach, which is giving in order to give, the level of the tzaddik. Not easy. Those are the ones whose strength is weakened, says the Rebbe Tzila. In any case, there's the notion that those who are ready will come to the revelations, but those who are not ready, we don't reveal it to them. We don't want to put the stumbling block in front of them. Because it could be that if they are at the state of consciousness of a woman and child, they need to be there. There's no skipping steps. We all go through those motions. But at some point, there will be a necessity. Hopefully, the individual will have the awareness to at least desire to pass the threshold. The Rebbe Shita continues. This demonstrates again that Maimonides' statement clearly cannot be applied to women in the plain sense of the term. For there are countless women who do have a well-developed sense of truth and have the integrity to overcome selfish desires and live according to the dictates of truth. And again, as mentioned, there were prophetesses, women who reached the level of nevuah, women who were cleaving to the Creator, who had devekut. So obviously the notion of for its sake, keeping the Torah mitzvot lishma, was revealed to them. Because without the awareness that such a reality is possible to obtain, they could not focus and hone in on that goal and therefore draw that reality to themselves and work on attaining it. So if there were women prophetesses, by definition, surely they knew what it was meaning to say for its sake, because they were at that level. It's impossible to say that you can't reveal for its sake to a woman by the surface level understanding. It's something deeper, as we're learning here. The translator adds a paragraph here. It is important to acknowledge the insult to women when negative traits are referred to as women, whatever the explanation may be for this manner of expression. Rabbi Gottlieb, the Rebbe Shlita, has expressed his regret that the use of the codename women in this way has caused people emotional pain. The intent here is to reveal the inner truth that is expressed in Maimonides' statement, although one should refrain from continuing to express it in this way. The inner meaning expressed by Maimonides is eternally true. The idea of serving God for its sake cannot be revealed to a person with a selfish desire to receive and a weak ability to overcome that desire, seeming to imply someone who has no desire to reach the higher level because they can't overcome their desire to receive for themselves alone and can't take an iota of a step outside of their egoism. The idea of service for the sake of heaven must also not be revealed to children. A childlike person is an undeveloped being who has yet to grasp the true meaning of life. The child gives significance to what is unimportant and then devalues what is significant. The prime example I like to reference is when there could be an absolute genius of Torah, a scholar, or a true righteous person, a tzaddik, giving a class, let's say on Shabbat. It's a wonderful class. Amazing wisdom being revealed and brought down and applied in a practical level to one's inner work. Something that could really change one's life if they listened to it, meditated on it, learned it again and integrated it. And the child, as opposed to sitting in and listening to the class, is outside the shul or outside the synagogue, playing soccer, sucking on their lollipop, just hanging out. So too, the inner aspect of us that is a child is when we choose nonsense in contrast to the choices of connecting our consciousness, minute by minute, moment by moment, to things that connect us to the Creator, to things that inch us closer, step by step, to attaining dvekut, adhesion to the Creator. In contrast to that, we do whatever we do. And we're like children who don't have the ultimate focus, the most important thing in life, being the ultimate connection with the Creator. A small child cannot appreciate what is given to him or her, continues the Rebbe Shita. So it is thrown away after only a little play. Pick up the toy, couple minutes, next. And so it is in spirituality. When we cannot appreciate the great gift that is given us, whether it be the greatness of loving the other, or the connection with the Creator, then we are considered children. The Baal Shalom says, the more someone is grateful and thankful to the Creator for every little thing, the more they can be given. They're showing that they can make efficient use of the experiences that are being brought to them at every moment. The Creator is always giving us opportunities in every moment of our lives to even contemplate for the moment that we're breathing and our blood is pumping, and to give thanks. By means of that thanks, our vessels expand. Because a loving father wants to give to their child more and more if they appreciate it, if they know what they're being given. Not that we can ever know the infinite goodness that we're always being given by our life in itself. But if we at least try and say thanks and really meditate on all that's been given to us and arouse the consciousness of gratitude, then we can expand our kalim, expand our vessels more and more. This is not a question of a lack of knowledge, being if we are considered as children. As children lack plenty of knowledge, they're young. But of a lack of inner understanding that one's path in life should be in the direction of loving the other and loving God. Not in the direction of self-love, being egoistic love. What can a child do? What can be done if a person sees that he or she is not prepared at this time to face the truth? The truth can be annoying and painful, and a person dominated by childishness is not prepared to take on the required spiritual work. The remedy is for such a person to attach himself or herself to Sofrim and Sfarim, scholars and texts. By texts, the books, we mean holy books, books of truth. These are books that deal with the central point of truth, which is the only point of significance, mainly our connection with God. True scholars are people who follow this path of truth. In essence, Sfarim v'Sofrim, books, and the holy people who wrote the books. We're trying to connect ideally to the actual authors of the holy books we're reading from. Plenty of what we're reading are from people who are passed away. So perhaps connect to those who are continuing in that line, continuing in their ways. Why? You are where your thoughts are. Think good and it will be good. We attract reality to ourselves through our consciousness. We are partners in creation after all. We're co-creators. And as far as the Tanya is concerned, we envelop our consciousness with garments by all that we learn. We envelop and put the garments of the wisdom and understanding, the light of that which we learn upon our soul. We're garmenting our soul with the consciousness of the author. We're connecting to the author in an intimate way when we are reading their works. That's profound, which is why that's the go-to advice for anyone on this earth. To connect to the holy books and the holy authors. To elevate their consciousness more and more. If someone, for example, was interested in secular matters, and they could concentrate on the godliness within all sciences, and see the Creator within it, and use that as a means to connect to the Creator, then that's certainly elevating it. And that certainly can be done. It's not forbidden. But if someone has the free time, in theory, connecting to the holiest texts, coming from the holiest consciousness, is the most efficient thing in order to rise to the highest level. Each person at their level, perhaps there is a different dynamic, but in any case, we should all defer to our spiritual master. If we have one, if not, Zat Hashem, with the Creator's help, we should be able to take one on and pray for one. No one is exempt from this spiritual work. Each morning we see the blessing, blessed are you, who has made for me all that I need. If that is so, then no one can claim exemption on the basis of the excuse that he or she lacks the resources to do what is required. We have everything we need in this very moment to do the right thing, to step closer to the Creator. Each of us receives from God the qualities with which we are to work. People look at others and say, well, they have fine qualities. This one is diligent, that one is persistent, and that other one has the strength to overcome difficulties. Certainly they weren't referring to me when our sages delineated the path one must take. No one can exempt themselves in this way. For God gave each individual the precise qualities and character that are uniquely necessary for him or her. With those qualities, we are to begin to work. The world is waiting for us. Each one of us has a very special individual gift and purpose to give. And we have exactly what we need to at least start to fulfill our mission. I would like to note that seeing the fine qualities of others, whether it's their diligence or persistence or strength to overcome difficulties, is an amazing thing. And we should do our absolute best to see the good in others. Why? We're blessing them just by judging them favorably. We're blessing that individual just by seeing the good in them. There is a deep transference of positive consciousness and energy. It's called an ayin tov, a good eye, a good heart, to think good of them. This is much of the inner work and has to do with the group work. That's going to be the 10th essay here in this collection of essays. But in any case, we should think good of others. Very important. And the truth is, if we see the diligence, the persistence, or the ability to overcome difficulties in other people, whatever the positive trait we see in others, the truth is that trait is within us. Perhaps it's true that they have a stronger level of that quality, but anything we notice in the other, even more so anything outside of ourselves that we observe, is within us. Because every person is an olam katan, it's a small world. Everything is within, especially the qualities that we observe. So much so that if we see negative qualities in the other, that's actually the Creator revealing in our consciousness that what we're seeing in that person and judging that person is actually within us. And the only reason we're seeing it is because we have yet to make a tikkun, a correction on that aspect within us. So as opposed to continuing the judgment on the other person, God forbid, we make note that, I'm actually being given a huge gift, a revelation within my own self of an opportunity that I have to elevate something within me by means of the Creator's help, and ask Him to help elevate this quality within me. And to do just that, to deflect the judgment, to not even think about the other in that negative fashion, to instantly elevate that matter and say, wow, that's got to be within me somehow. Let's find out what's going on. Such a tool, certainly, for those who have stepped away from the consciousness of woman or child in regards to what we're learning here. Because that's the bitter truth. That's the truth for those who can handle, in contrast to the ones whose strength has been weakened, who can't handle. People who now have a faulty character, whom Maimonides, Rambam, called women and children, can eventually grow and acquire wisdom and understanding, chokhmah and bina. They can also eventually attain the level of lishma, for its sake. And our sages said that by means of lo lishma, not for its sake, a person will come to for its sake, lishma. We learned more about this in the last essay of levels of self-love. Each of us begins with lo lishma, not for its sake. That is, service of God on the basis of self-interest. I want reward, I want to be paid in this world and the next. There is no other way to begin, for our primal nature is to receive pleasure and joy for our own benefit. As we progress, we can take tiny steps, and by way of work and Torah in the mitzvot, we can gradually approach the goal of observing Torah lishma, for its sake. In the end, we will desire to do only what is pleasing to our Creator, and we will not at all be motivated by self-love. This is an arduous process and a bittersweet one due to the difficulty of seeing the truth of our egoism. In any case, the Baal Sulam advises us to spend the exceeding majority of our day in happiness and to meditate on ourselves as if we're already in a state of perfection, of perfect emunah shlema, already being in Gemar Tikkun, our final correction, to draw that reality upon ourselves. But what we're speaking about here, as far as the awareness of the ego, that is best done in the last 30 minutes of the day. Doing an accounting of the day and accounting the soul, a cheshbon nefesh. It's good to clarify that one who has not been successful to be in the right line in that day, meaning to be in happiness the majority of the day, that individual is not allowed to criticize themselves and do the soul accounting. They don't have the necessary fuel of the goodness within them to anchor them. Meaning, if they went into self-criticism, then, God forbid, they could risk falling into a deeper level of anxiety, depression, and the like. So, just want to brush upon the right and left line a little bit more. The middle line, of course, being, if we're successful to be in the left line and to criticize our day, to see truly where our intention was throughout the events of the day and throughout our intentions and even our Torah and mitzvot and the like, then we should be happy. We should be happy of all the revelations and the truth that we see within ourselves, the truth of our egoism, because to be revealed the truth within one's consciousness is a great salvation from the Creator. And it takes a lot of help from the Creator to receive such revelations, to receive such awareness. So one should be exceedingly happy, ideally. And that happiness from seeing the truth in the self-criticism aligns one back to the right, so to speak. So because they go right, left, right, that's considered the middle line. And that's the line we should be walking in a general sense. So if someone's been hearing this essay and thinks, I might be woman, child, or both for most of the day, it's okay. You should be very happy you've come to that awareness, because there are billions of people who can live their whole lives without ever even becoming aware of such a concept. The next essay is called The Nations of the World. We'll be learning about the nations within us, because every person is a small world. All the best. Have a most wonderful day.